All right, I'm going to call the March 24th Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board meeting to order at 6:31. And we're going to start with the reorganization of the board. So I am going to take nominations for chairperson for the WSESU board.
I move to nominate Bill Yates to be the chair of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Bill, do you accept?
I do.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Hearing none? Any discussion? All right, Bill, we have to vote. Hold on a minute, we have to vote. All right, Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Bill, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Megan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Elizabeth, how do you vote?
Aye.
Sarah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Beth, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Amy, how do you vote?
Aye.
And
Anne Marie and Heather just popped in.
Anne Marie and Heather, we are voting on chair of the WSESU board, and Bill Yates has been nominated and seconded and accepted. So we are voting. Would you like to weigh in, Anne Marie?
Aye.
And Heather? She's just getting on. Heather?
She's banging her head on the table. Why, Bill? Why?
Well, I think that's enough.
Yes.
So, Bill, I'm turning the meeting over to you.
Elizabeth has raised her hand.
I'd like to say congratulations, Bill. You've done a fine job in the last year. And I wondered whether, can we hear who's new on our board?
I think that's a wonderful idea. Is Megan Reed? No,
Nope.
She's not new. There's a different Megan.
It's Megan.
Heather, would you like to? Heather Bernada is new to the SU board. She has been an incredible member of the negotiating team. And I'd like to welcome her. You want to say hello and introduce yourself, Heather?
Sure. Hi, Bill. It's good to see you. So I'm Heather Veneda, and I'm actually at Heartland Elementary right now. There's my backdrop because my daughter is in the play, which is this week. Beth Roy's child, I think, is in there too. So anyways, so here I am. I don't know. I live in Heartland. I got 2 kids who go to Heartland. I teach at Woodstock Union High School. That's about the most exciting part.
Welcome, Heather. And I said Megan because we have a new Megan Weir. Is that correct?
Megan,
Or is it
no.
not Megan?
Wait,
What?
it's Megan. She used to be Megan J, but she's married to Willie Waite, so it's Megan Waite.
Megan Waite. Okay. I knew it started with a W.
Yeah.
And she has actually joined the negotiating team as well. Hopefully in a very short stint because we are anxious to get done. But it doesn't look like she's here quite yet tonight. Yes.
What town is Megan Way from?
Wethersfield.
Okay, I'm noticing that the website lists John Arison as the new Wethersfield board member.
Yes, I was just going to say that Megan is our representative to the negotiations team, but John Arison, who I don't see is on yet, I was just going to call him, is our SU rep.
Oh, I think we talked about that. Okay. Thank you for clearing that up, Anne Marie. We look forward to those new members. Moving on to the agenda, election of a vice chair. If any, as we go through these, if those in the audience and the board members would like to chime in to remind us all who actually has these positions.
I pulled up the
You
minutes.
pulled them up? Oh,
I got them.
Christine is so organized.
I got them just in time. Okay, so Megan Reed is the current vice president.
Yes, okay.
Or vice chair, sorry.
So Megan Reed is the current vice chair, and she's doing a fantastic job. Nancy? Nancy? No.
Oh, I nominate, sorry, Megan Reed.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Davis? Megan, do you accept the position? Accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay. Oh my goodness. This is going to be difficult for me. Going around the horn, completely unready, reading stuff. Okay. We'll take a vote. Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Megan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye. Can you turn the camera on for the owl? Thank you.
Yes. That is off, isn't it? Or is it? Sarah?
Aye.
Beth?
Hi.
Katie? Oh, sorry. No, Amy.
Can't hear anyone. Can't hear anyone.
I only hear you, Nancy.
Oh,
It could be that when they're
Hey, sorry everyone. The owl is kind of crashing right now. So we are doing our best. Here, I'll turn the sound on my computer too so people can hear if people say things.
I'm gonna hang up and try again on the owl.
Yep. Yeah. Christine's going to restart the owl so we can try to get back on track here.
Amy,
probably
where,
trying to start its little camera probably killed it.
Amy, we're waiting for you to vote on whether how you feel about Megan Reed being the vice chair.
Oh, I said aye.
Oh,
And
missed it.
Davis, do you mind calling on who's Anne Marie?
aye.
And who do we have left?
I have not voted yet.
Heather.
Heather Veneta, I vote aye as well.
Okay. Have I missed someone? I don't have my visual right now. Okay. Then Megan Reed is the vice chair. Congratulations, Megan. Election of clerk of the board. And Davis is the current clerk of the board. Davis, I can't see who's raising their hand.
It's Nancy, and I nominate Davis.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second, Megan.
Oh, outstanding. Okay, see if I can. Okay. We're voting on Davis for clerk on the board. Nancy, how do you vote?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Amy?
Did you say Amy?
I did.
Okay, I couldn't tell. Aye.
Heather?
I have a vacuum cleaner in the background. They're cleaning at Heartland Elementary. I can't hear anything.
Megan, or did I? Yeah.
Aye.
Elizabeth,
Aye.
Anne Marie,
Aye.
and I am an I.
And I am also an I.
And Davis is an I. Thank you. Okay. Election of treasurer.
Nikki Buck.
Nikki Buck.
She is accepted, even
Yeah,
though she's not here.
Nikki said that she would accept any nomination. So do I have a nomination?
I move to nominate Nikki Buck to be the clerk of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Election of treasurer.
Davis,
You're the clerk.
Yeah.
Oh, treasurer.
Treasurer.
Sorry.
Do we have a second or did I miss that?
Sarah, second.
Thank you, Sarah. Okay, and Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Megan?
Aye.
Heather?
I.
Beth?
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye. Hi, John.
And Sarah?
Aye.
Okay. And I'm an I.
Assistant treasurer was Amy
Election
McMullen.
assistant, who was who?
Amy McMullen.
Amy McMullen is the assistant treasurer at this time. Do I have any nominations for assistant treasurer?
I nominate Amy McMullen as assistant treasurer.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Second.
Okay. Amy, do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination. Thank you.
And Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Nicole, also here. Heather?
I.
Megan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
And Nancy?
Aye.
And I am an I. What'd you say, Christine?
Oh, I was just saying Heather had her thumb up.
Okay. Election of signer of the manifest.
Bill and Nancy.
Bill and Nancy. We will be open to double nominations here.
I nominate Bill Yates and Nancy Pedrick for signer of the
Okay.
manifest.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Do I have a second for Bill Yates and Nancy Petrick being signer of the manifest?
Sarah, second.
Okay, thank you. Nancy, do you accept the nomination?
I do.
And so do I. And so, Sarah, how do you vote?
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Heather?
I.
Megan?
Aye.
Amy?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
And I am an I. Okay. Congratulations, Nancy and Bill. Election of budget committee members.
SU Budget Committee. We didn't vote on this last year until later in the year,
Okay.
so you could do it now or you could do it later. It was Elizabeth, Sarah, and Oh, boy, give me 1 second. Elizabeth, Sarah, and Ryan from Heartland. Yeah.
Okay.
He's not a member of the SU board. Is that a requirement to be on the SU budget committee?
I don't,
Okay.
not to me.
Okay.
I mean, it's up to the board, I think. It's a advisory committee, and
Yeah, it's
we
in
meet on Friday mornings as we prepare the budget.
He wasn't last year.
Yes, that's correct.
Ryan filled in because Hannah.
No, but he wasn't on the SU board, I mean.
No,
Right,
correct.
yes.
That's what we're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was on the committee.
He was. He filled in. Yeah.
How do people feel about this? Do we want to take nominations or? Okay. So Christine, could you repeat those?
It was Elizabeth for Mount Escutney,
Yeah.
Sarah for Weathersfield, and Ryan for Heartland.
Okay. Do we know how Ryan?
Ryan was on paternity leave, so it worked out this past
Okay.
year, but it was Hannah and she was too busy with her work schedule.
Yeah.
So, but we can also wait until August.
Yeah, I think we should wait on
See
this
who's scheduled.
because things will change.
Yeah.
All the way through summer.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
I just feel that would probably make more sense.
Just for clarity, Bill, are we tabling this till July maybe? Or what's the?
The budget committee starts meeting in late September or mid-September.
Mid-September.
Yep,
So we need to know by
the SU retreat usually is
Yeah,
in August.
August.
Cool.
Okay.
So
Okay,
I'm
now.
gonna table this till August. Hopefully, the local boards will have a discussion about who they want to represent. And designation of official newspapers. I believe we have the Standard.
Yep.
Valley News.
Yep.
And the Eagle
You
Times.
are right.
Yes.
That's what we have.
So is VT Digger on that list too?
No. Not
VT
from,
Digger tends to be the, yeah. Who would want to put,
I think that's on the MASD.
yes, it's on Mount Scotty.
Yeah.
Do we have any other suggestions, desires for changes? Not as if I'm taking nominations, but, no? Okay. I will take a motion to approve those three newspapers as the designation of official newspapers.
So
I
moved.
so move. Like a second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, there we go. Establish of meeting day, time and place. To be perfectly honest with you, my preference would be to keep the day, and start at 6. And it just be able to get through and, board meetings at the SU level, especially around policy they can run later. And so getting home at 9 o'clock is a little much, and about after 8:30, my brain is fried. So I will take a motion to set the time, the day as,
Wait,
Fourth Monday.
yes,
Can we have some discussion on that?
After the motion.
after the motion.
Okay.
Okay, I will take a motion to have the meeting day on the 4th
Monday.
Monday of the month, and the meeting time at 6 p.m.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second, Megan.
Okay, thank you, Megan. Okay, discussion.
I would like to throw in that it's awfully early getting dinner for a family and then going to the meeting. I just, it would be hard for me, but I could do it, but it would be hard.
Anne Marie?
I agree with what Nancy said.
Okay.
6:30 is a little better for my schedule.
Okay. Does anyone else have feelings one way or the other? Heather?
I'm a fan of 6 o'clock. We do 6 o'clock in Heartland, and I feel like I totally understand the dinner on the table and all that stuff. But I think 6 o'clock gets us done earlier, which for me is like home for bedtime.
Yeah, my issue is not necessarily feeding the little ones, it's getting them to bed, especially my little hyperactive young man. Amy?
Your prince.
My prince.
So if it had been at 6 this evening, I would have been about 25 minutes late.
Okay.
So that is also, and I can't guarantee that I wouldn't be about 25 minutes late going forward. I would do my best to be available at 6, but work doesn't always cooperate.
Okay. So it's kind of sounds like we're 50-50, sort of on the, do people want to try a couple meetings at 6 and see how it goes?
Why don't we vote on whether to have it at 6 or 6:30?
I think that's where we're at, yeah. Okay, let's vote. Well, we have a motion to have it at 6. And so if it doesn't pass, then we'll just have a quick vote to have it on 6:30. So
I'll keep track.
Okay, Davis.
Aye.
Nancy.
Nay.
Sarah.
Nay.
Beth.
I'm going to abstain. I don't have a strong feeling either way.
So what's your vote? Oh, abstain. Thank you. Amy.
I with reservations.
Okay. Heather.
I'm an I for 6 o'clock.
Yeah. Megan.
Aye.
Elizabeth.
Nay.
Anne Marie.
Nay.
And I'm an I.
Don't forget John. He's
John
on
Harrison.
now. John Harrison is on now.
John.
No.
Okay.
Nice. So we've got a 5-5 and one abstention. So you break the tie, Bill.
I am an I.
Well, you voted already, right?
I did vote already, yes, because we have actually.
We have 11 people. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
One abstention.
Yeah, one abstention, 5-5.
Yeah. But that's 11, right?
Yes, that's 11. So which means
5, 6.
Nancy.
How about alternating for 4 meetings and then voting?
Yeah, that's an option, but honestly, if that's what we're going to vote for, I'd say nay, because I prefer consistency than anything. But that's my personal opinion. Okay, I will take a.
I would make Beth Roy vote. Break the tie.
Okay, Beth.
Then I'll say aye. Sure.
Okay.
Twist my arm on something so dramatic.
I know. Okay, so that passes. But to be perfectly honest with you, if it becomes an issue, I am more than willing to revote. I'll make this a couple tries, and if it does become difficult for people to get here on time, then we will switch. Okay. So I appreciate Amy's vote for with reservations. I'm going to keep an open mind. Robert rules for small boards. I will take a motion to approve Robert rules for small boards.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second. Second.
John has a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Even though I think it was unanimous. Okay. Changes, addition. So we're done with the reorganization of the board. Changes, addition to the agenda. We just a quick FYI, we do have an executive session, which is why I'm moving things along. I will take a motion to approve the minutes of February 24th, 2025. Nancy,
So moved.
do I have a second?
Sarah, second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
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 I'll abstain. I wasn't there.
I'll abstain.
Oh, by the way, John.
I'll abstain as well.
Okay. John, would you like to take a quick, we did this earlier. Would you like to take a moment and quickly introduce yourself?
Sure. First, I apologize for being late to the meeting. I didn't get the notice. The MRA alerted me to it. But anyway, won't happen again. New member to the Wethersfield board. Glad to be appointed to the SU.
Okay. Well, welcome, John. Public participation.
Lexi, I'm down for dinner.
Public comment is not legally required, but we believe it is crucial for us to hear from our community members about their concerns over issues. Through these meetings, our board models for our students how to conduct public discourse, in that the board and members of our community can approach controversial issues in a civil and constructive manner and can demonstrate mutual respect. Having said that, please note that the board is here to listen. The public comment period is not designed for discussion. Please start by identifying yourself and what town you reside in. I will call on Elizabeth, who actually said that she had an issue she wanted to bring up, legislative wise.
I do. So I while normally in public comment, I'm going to need your input. We got the yield bill, which is what sets the property tax rate for this upcoming year. And there's also a $77 million surplus. So so the governor wants us to apply the $77 million to the ed budget, thereby buying down the tax rate to 1.5%. Without the $77 million buy down, the tax rate, I believe, will be 5% increase. Some of the Democrats have been lobbying to only apply half of the $77 million because we see there being the net effect of the $77 million buy down is that it will cost the ed fund $120 million next year, and our property taxes will be much worse than they would be with the 5% this year. Am I making sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm coming to you asking whether you think I should vote for a $77 million buy down, stow that $77 million somewhere, or an application of half of the $77 million to be used as, and by the way, nobody has talked about putting the $77 million into school construction or any of the other things that we are kind of desperate for. But so I need some input on whether to vote for the yield bill as it is right now, or to choose one of the other options.
Public comment, we usually don't have a discussion, but Elizabeth is asking if you have input. John, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, a question for Elizabeth. How did I couldn't find the yield number as it came out of Ways and Means. How did it compare with the one from December from JFO?
It's much dramatically lower than the JFO number.
That's not good news.
No, it's an increase of 5%, and I think the JFO number was 12. So it is good news.
So the percent increase is
The percent increase
is 7% less.
The yield is higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the yield is higher.
That's without the buy down. With the buy down, the tax rate would be a 1.5% increase, but it would put $120 million into next year's deficit, which comes back to our school boards to try to eat away at.
Okay. John, do you have input?
No, that was just a question for Elizabeth.
Okay. Thank you, John. Anne Marie.
I would tell Elizabeth to vote no. I think all the school boards have already, well, most of them have passed their budgets. The voters voted on okaying that. If we go ahead with this buy down, it puts us in a horrible position for next year. With all the uncertainty, I really think that money should be being saved somewhere in case federal monies don't come in or something like that happens. I just don't think it's wise to use the money that way.
Davis.
Thanks, Anne Marie.
Yeah, just one quick question for Elizabeth. Is there any concept of what the impact would be for next year if they did that 50-50 buy down plan?
It would still be a deficit of $60 million. But it is thought that would be more manageable than $120 million, because that $120 million has to be raised through the local taxes.
Yeah. I have to agree 100% with Anne Marie, and I couldn't put it any better.
I'd love to hear from someone from Heartland if you have any thoughts.
Heather's gone dark.
It's gotta be Beth. She's driving home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have thoughts other than, I feel like none of it seems like a good solution personally. So I'm feeling kind of stuck in the middle overall. But the whole idea of like the uncertainty of what's to come in the current political climate makes me want to squirrel everything in my life away right now. So that's kind of how I'm feeling.
Yeah, I'll throw out, honestly, I wanted to hear about the kind of like the median option there, but if we're already down at a place, to Anne Marie's point, that voters have decided is appropriate, especially having gone through last year's budget season, setting ourselves up for something else like that, it is not particularly appealing. So I would not be in favor of that.
Thank you. I really appreciate the input. I should also say that John Bartholomew and I are already inclined to vote against the yield bill because we pushed really hard to get tuitions moved out this year while they're jiggering the system, and they were a flat no. The Ways and Means Committee was a flat no on it, and like no discussion. So thank you. I know what I'm going to do, and I've got your thoughts with me. Thanks.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Is there any other public participation? Beth.
much more fun announcement. Heartland has their musical Friday and Saturday, 2 shows on Saturday. You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. The kids are doing an amazing job, all the adults involved. It will be awesome. Come on down.
Sounds fun. I played percussion for that show once.
I love that show.
Come on down.
Anne-Marie.
My daughter's Lucy. It's going to be great.
Okay. Anne-Marie.
Weathersfields also has a production of Peter Pan Jr. coming up, I believe, April 4th and 5th.
Thank you. Davis.
Just a couple of announcements, I guess. One, since we're all here, congratulations to everybody on, having your budgets passed. I think that's something that's worth celebrating again with the last time we did this fresh in our minds. And then also I just wanted to acknowledge and congratulate the Windsor girls varsity basketball team on winning the state championship, the D3 state championship again. It's really exciting. I got to catch a handful of games this year. They're a really amazing team, and it's super exciting.
Okay, thank you. Any other public participation? Okay, policy discussions. And I'm going to start off with, we have a lot of third reads. So I'm going to start off with motions. So B7, tobacco prohibition policy and procedure. Do I have a motion to approve that policy?
So moved.
Davis, do I have a second? Beth, thank you. Any discussion? I'll throw out there that this is pretty much covers the legal requirements. And there's not a lot of huge changes, just simplification in some areas and clarification. Am I wrong?
No, you're good.
Yeah.
You're good.
Any other discussion? Okay, I am going to, unless anyone objects, I'm going to take some voice votes on these. Okay, all in favor of approving B7 tobacco prohibition policy and procedures, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Any abstentions? Okay. C3 transportation. I will take a motion to approve C3 transportation.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second, Megan.
Okay, thank you. I'm trying to find it. I have them all open, and yeah. We had some significant changes in this in previous reads, and one of the issues of the first read was the fact that it would require us to guarantee transportation beyond what statute said. And so that, Christine, you want to just point out quick changes that?
We left the word may in the
Okay.
policy in the policy statement. I think the rest of it didn't really change much. The procedures, I did update the procedures pretty significantly, but they were pretty loose, so now they're much tighter.
All right. So thank you.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Davis?
Super minor note, but we just make sure that where the paragraph that says where it is reasonably starts below the line where it says statement of policy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Lori fix that.
I'm sure it would go and fix anyway. But
Yeah.
Otherwise, I think we made the change we need to make.
Yep.
Good.
Okay. All in favor of approving? Let me find my C3 transportation. Please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Abstentions? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. C6, participation of home study students. C6. And I think I just closed that. No. This is a very simple policy. in which it just clarifying and what was changed. I think they just added.
I think they added school use of school facilities, as I recall.
Yep. Did you do anything to the procedure?
I sure did.
I kind of looked like you did.
Pretty comprehensive now, so.
Yeah, okay, so thank you, Christine.
Yep.
Any other discussion? Davis?
Just one more very small formatting note. It looks like there's a space before the word it.
It sure does.
Sorry
Yeah,
to be a
I'll fix
stickler.
that. No.
Yeah, that's it. Looks great.
Okay.
Language is good.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor of passing C6, participation of home study students, please say aye.
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 Bill, just, who made the motion?
Did
Davis
Davis did,
Okay.
yes, and
Megan.
Megan,
Megan,
okay,
thank
thank you.
short-term
Yep.
memory.
Yeah, I should write it down, although I didn't.
I'm talking about my short-term memory. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Thank you, Davis. I will take a motion on responsible computer, internet, and network use.
So moved. Elizabeth.
Second, Beth.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion?
Just one note, actually, reading through this again. It might be worth, just on a skim, the term under 5A, control of access by minors to inappropriate matter on the internet and the World Wide Web is obscene. On 2, I think the term is actually child sexual abuse material, like legally tends to be used now, so we want to update that.
Do we want to?
You can accept it with that change or pass it with that one change, or do you want to?
Or do we want to see if that's actually the legal term?
We
I
can,
don't want to search for that term.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something to do that.
I mean, it came from the VSBA,
Okay.
so,
If this came from the VSBA, I'm inclined to go with whatever they say. Yeah.
Okay. So would I, but
nobody wants to look it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At some point,
Okay.
you might want to add it on to another
Lawyer
discussion with PH for.
It's worth checking, because I know from like news coverage and stuff,
And then
CSAM
if
is a.
they feel it's important, we can change it. Okay. All in favor of passing D3, responsible computer, internet, and network use, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Still don't think I'm pronouncing that
No,
correctly.
you got it.
You got it.
No, it's insecurity. D20, curriculum development and coordination. I will take a motion to approve this policy.
So moved.
Amy, second.
Okay. I'm going to ask Christine to just point out
Yep,
the changes.
Yep, so under number 2, the superintendent shall, we added assist the director of curriculum, instruction, and assessment, and members of the supervisory union and members school board. So we added the director. We pointed out the director in that sentence because that's what that position does, yeah. And we did in the procedures add a couple, I added under number 3, a timeline for the implementation of new curricular program will be provided to staff at or before the onset of implementation, and B, implementation of the curriculum is supported and monitored by the school administrator. That needed to be clarified, so.
Yeah. And I want to thank everyone who participated in the previous discussions on this. We actually cleaned up a couple things. Any other discussion? Well, any discussion? Davis, is your hand still up? Or
Oh, shouldn't be.
I kind of figured that was a.
Whoops.
Okay.
Way early.
All in favor of D20 curriculum development and coordination, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. Okay, any abstentions? Okay. F23, capitalization of assets. And I will not take a motion because this is just the second read. Elizabeth.
There is on page 2, the numbers don't correlate with what's above.
Page 2.
Oh, never mind. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I have to admit, I'm not a huge fan of the first intent going numerical. That gets confusing, Elizabeth. So
You want me to have her change that?
it really depends on what's custom. You know, my preference is not anything important. What's customarily done in these.
I'll ask her.
I really don't think it is.
I don't think so either.
Yeah, it usually goes numbers, then letters, or letters and then numbers.
Yeah, and actually, it looks like in the definition section, it follows that, and then it changes under admin responsibility.
Yeah,
So it
yeah.
makes sense to make
Okay,
it
we'll change that.
consistent.
For next time.
And this was just the increase of the value down there, right?
Yes.
That was,
Okay.
okay.
Federal guidelines.
Yeah.
Change from 5,000 to 10,000. That's the only change.
Yep.
Okay. Any other comments? Okay. C43, Windsor WSESU Act of Hate Policy. And believe it or not, this is actually a first read. And for those of you who are new here, we had, I'm having a hard time remembering her first name. Lynn.
Heather Lynn.
Heather Lynn, join an SU meeting and go through this policy because we actually had legal assistance in writing it. It has come up with an issue of that was brought to us from Windsor High School students, and in policy and in procedure, there was very little we could do. And I don't know if this policy is going to actually solve the issue, but it does clarify with well-rounded informational clarification around First Amendment rights and all the other pitfalls in attempting to police hate actions and speech. I am at this point quite happy with this, but I'm not sure if it's gonna. But I'm really anxious to hear what other people think. Davis?
So I do have some thoughts on the text, but I have my third style thing of the night. There's a letter K before
Yeah, just
non-disciplinary.
circled that. Yeah, I got that one.
Okay. No, I also am, I'm comfortable with the language here. I think that I just want to point out, it's helpful, I think, that we outline where due process comes in and sort of at least begin to point to where this connects to other policies that we're already using to keep our students safe here.
So does it do that though? And how would we go about doing that if it doesn't? And I'm not saying I don't disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wondering who would do that, because I too think it's important to reference the other policy around harassment and bullying where they may be applicable. when applying this policy? Because there is a lot of overlap between those areas.
It's under interaction with other policies. There's a section on page 3.
Okay.
I don't know if you want more than that, Davis.
Well, I'm wondering is throughout, I think Beth, well, let's hear what Beth has to say actually first.
I would just say, yeah, there's a lot, I think there's a lot of overlap with the hazing, harassment, bullying stuff, but that's not there protecting employees. So I feel like the really big role of this is to affect our employees from hate.
Yeah.
We already have sorry, I didn't raise my hand.
It's okay, Elizabeth, go ahead.
We already have protections for employees. Employees are completely protected.
That's not what it seems to be the case all the time.
What's that?
I don't know. I've seen some circumstances that doesn't seem to be the case all the time.
And I think that our employees need to be better educated about that law because it is. We took great pains to make sure that teachers are protected. All employees are protected under that law. It doesn't even have to be the person who is being harassed who files a complaint. It doesn't have to happen at the place of employment. It doesn't have to be severe and pervasive, which it was before. We removed that. It can be a one-off incident. It's all about having a non-toxic work environment.
Right. So the question is, though, first, and I don't know if this is Larry's point, but is that representative in policy yet? Has those legislative changes been shifted to policy yet?
No, but do we need a policy to cover what's already in statute?
Not necessarily, except that having
But
that reference.
Does it cover, students? I mean, I can see how it, adults to adults, but is it covering students to adults situations? Repeated hate speech from students to adults. Is it things like that?
I don't know. I let me look into that and give you an answer tomorrow. Okay.
Yeah, because
that'd be helpful because we get stuck there.
In all directions.
We stuck in that.
Yeah.
But Beth, thank you for bringing that up. As this is just the first reading, I think that is something that's really important to investigate because I have heard about examples of that as well. Not that this policy is going to solve that issue, but to have it outlined and be able to reference that statute in policy as well might be beneficial. Okay. Any other?
Yeah, it would just make it stronger, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Just checking one quick thing. I just want to make sure we covered all of the policies that we need in the. So I think we talked about Title IX and HHB.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure there's nothing else because I just recently kind of compiled a bunch of those. So. Pardon me.
I felt like the transgender policy. Anti-racism.
Yeah.
I don't understand what statute the remedy would be for an adult to adult outside of the school district.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, Larry. I forgot you had a question.
Well, I just don't, I don't understand. Like, I see how this policy could be with adults, students to adults, staff, et cetera. I get that. But a staff member inside the district and an adult outside of the district, whether a parent or whatever, post some stuff on Facebook about somebody online. I don't know what any statute would, I don't know if there'd be any remedy. So I'm confused about how that could be adjudicated because this is a private citizen's feelings.
Which is
I guess.
And this hate speech policy addresses those limitations really well. And
you bring the parent in. I mean,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
What if they refuse to come in?
This is just students and staff, right?
I was talking about what Elizabeth was referring to. I don't understand the remedy for.
Yes, it is.
Some, I'm teaching third grade.
Davis?
Yeah, so the policy that, we might want to include C15, student conduct and discipline, in the ones that interact with it. I was gonna say, I knew there was like a third one that directly talks about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is gonna be
I'm gonna run it all by Heather.
Yeah.
If that's
Mhm.
fine with all.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, this is gonna be a work in progress.
Yeah.
C81, Behavior Threat Assessment Team.
This is new. This goes into effect July 1st, 2025. So I can just share that we already are doing a lot that's in this policy. So it's not a big surprise to us.
And it comes with procedural requirements.
It does. And reporting requirements.
Yeah.
It's a long one.
It will.
Are we talking about the threat assessment?
Yes.
I've got a question.
Sure.
What remediation is there for students who have been wrongly accused of being a threat?
Students who are wrongly accused?
Yeah.
I would say there needs to be conversation about that and some repair. If a student's been accused and it's not accurate, there definitely needs to be some acknowledgement of that and some conversation and some repair in that with that student, depending on how, and how far reaching that is, right? So repair with others if others are involved and believe that student to be considered a threat. That's just what's coming to the top of my head. I don't know that it's happened. It has been brought to my attention.
So my question is, what is the data collection going to look like? And
it's a form. It's a form from the AOE that we have to fill out.
Yeah, no idea why they
It's
can't.
a
get
long
their-
form.
I have no idea why they can't, get their current data system working properly, but anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? Administrative reports.
Okay. I'm gonna start. Let me share my screen. All right. So I'm going to start by connecting us with our goals, like I like to do. Our strategic plan goals, culture and student wellness. Some of this was mentioned during public comment, but I couldn't go without sharing that our girls are champions again, state champion, D3 state champions. Yeah, I know, it's pretty awesome.
It's really cool.
Congratulations to all of them and their families and the coach, Cabre, who's been a coach with us for quite a while, and who has 2 daughters on the team, which must be pretty special for him. We had, so there's a picture of a community engagement night at Windsor, which went really well. It happened to be on the night of the semifinal game, so attendance was a little bit lower than we'd hoped, but anyway, there are 2 more at the elementary level planned. That night there was a middle school engagement night as well, so some pictures there. We've got kids in Costa Rica. So Catherine Engwald is there and Hannah Claire with some high schoolers in Costa Rica. We also have students right now in Mexico. So I don't have a picture of them, but they are there. They made it safely. We had at Wethersfield an event on around St. Patrick's Day where the kids designed leprechaun traps, and it was very educational because they had to plan it out and write their steps and create and tried to catch the leprechaun. So that was pretty fun and made lots of smiles. And we had an assembly at Heartland and Wethersfield recently, and Tracy will talk more in her report, but it's called Ryan's Story, and it is a presentation from John Halligan, who is the parent of a student who was bullied, and it was quite a powerful and impactful presentation. And I will say that our students were incredibly respectful, emotional. It was a pretty sad story, and I think it'll go a long way in helping us with some prevention around bullying. So, yes.
Just a quick question. The community engagement nights, do you have the dates for the next two of those?
I do. I'll get them to you. I do. I don't have them.
Yeah, you don't have the stuff right now.
Yep. And our student success and engagement goal, we've got kids really engaged, and we're really trying to do hands-on learning with kids. So there's some salt map design in one of the pictures. We had at Wethersfield, we had an invention convention, the 4th grade. Put on a invention convention. We had 6 students from Windsor High School go to the state science fair, and some of them placed, which was pretty exciting. We had some students, some Windsor theater students who went to the Vermont Regional One Act Festival at Petra Academy this past weekend, and they're going to be doing Alice in Wonderland. You'll hear about that coming up. And we had Rajni Edens came and did an artist in residence, which was pretty powerful as well in Windsor this last week. So lots of things going on around our goals that we're proud of. I didn't switch the screen. I'm sorry about that. You missed all these great pictures. So I'll just give you a second. I want to shout out Larry Dower, our CFO. He recently received a certificate in education finance from Georgetown University. He continues to enroll and do all sorts of business finance work, which makes him the amazing CFO that he is. So just a shout out to Larry for that. Congratulations, Larry. On that note, Larry wanted me to share that the FY24 audit is on the website and completed, and we had no material findings, which I think that's pretty much our MO. We don't get a lot of material findings. Yeah, knock on wood. I am doing my best to keep up with the legislative session. It's fast moving, and Elizabeth can certainly weigh in if I'm mistaken, but it seems like the governor's proposal of 5 districts isn't really going anywhere. The Senate Ed Committee, there's a person on that committee, Seth Bollingartz, I believe is how you pronounce his name, has written a bill which is gaining some traction. It focuses on governance and redrawing lines. So the proposal is 6 districts, 3 SUs, and 2 interstate districts. So I think if you have feelings about that, I encourage you to reach out to your legislators. They want to hear from you about your thoughts. That one is gaining traction from, that's the word, from the VSA. There is a proposal in the works at the House, and the House has invited the Superintendent's Association to work with them on a proposal, and we've been working together on a proposal that seems more manageable and with a more with a timeline that would fit the work that needs to be done to consolidate. As you heard, oops, I skipped one. The funding draft language should be coming out this week in a bill for the foundation formula. So I'll keep you posted when I hear about that. And as Elizabeth said, the yield bill left the House at a proposed 8,596. I think it was 8,553 prior, or our last yield number. Yep. So, but we've already talked about that. So move on. I'm going to just briefly update you on some things that are coming at us, seems like daily. So really trying to keep up. There was a Dear Colleague letter, and the Office of Civil Rights Department. I'm just going to read a little bit of it. Says, will no longer tolerate the overt and covert racism discrimination that has become widespread in this nation's educational institutions. The law is clear. Treating students differently on the basis of race to achieve nebulous goals such as diversity, racial balancing, social justice, or equity is illegal under controlling Supreme Court precedent. Institutions that fail to comply with federal civil rights law may, consistent with application law, face potential loss of federal funding. And then they go on, and there is a link to a web form where people can make a complaint, and that is tied to, the complaints tied to funding. So the general advice from the Agency of Education currently is for educators in the face of these executive orders and guidance document has really been to proceed with our planned professional development and instructional activities in accordance with our SU instructional priorities, needs assessment activities, and State Board of Education rules, and to consult with our legal counsel if we have concerns about any specific activity or action. So you may have heard that on the news. It is what's going on currently. I have some more not so great news to share. But so there have also been orders around gender-based discrimination and Title IX enforcement, and there was a letter about that as well, and that was communicated on January 31st, basically telling us that we need to use the 2020 guidance and regulations of Title IX and not the 2024 guidance on Title IX, which we've really been doing anyway, because that's what the guidance has been from our legal counsel. And if there is any gender harassment discrimination, we can fall back on our HHB policy and will. So I will just read this statement because it actually makes me feel a little bit better. Protections for LGBTQIA+ students are enshrined in Vermont law and have not been diminished in any way by this federal action. Transgender and gender nonconforming student best practices and laws for the prevention of hazing, harassment, and bullying remain in effect, and the Agency of Education will continue to provide guidance and oversight consistent with these state laws. So the agency is telling us we can just continue as is, which is good news. The next executive order is the agency, the latest update talks about closing the Department of Education. I'm sure you've seen that on the news. And returning authority over education to the states. It directs secretaries to ensure programs receiving department funds terminate illegal discrimination obscured under the label of diversity, equity, and inclusion. But there is a note that Secretary McMahon and White House officials have publicly acknowledged it would require an act of Congress to eliminate the department, although it looks like it's being dismantled every day and right in front of our eyes. So I'm sure it will end up in litigation, but it's unnerving for sure and anxiety provoking for all of us. And then just one last federal funding update. So as you heard, there is a potential loss of federal funding if there are reports made, but we also had some updates that our title programs, our IDEA, and our majority of our Perkins funding are forward funded. Therefore, they're funded they're secure through this fiscal year. And we think there won't be changes to those for next year. We do know our title, it's anticipated that our title allocations are going to come out quite late, like late June. We usually know in May. And we have people that are funded through title. So they are kind of up in the air until this funding comes through. We have heard Title I allocations probably won't change a lot, but Title II may. And we do have people funded through Title II as well. So thinking about how to manage that. We have also heard we may lose Medicaid money, and that money pays for things like, it pays the person that does the Medicaid billing. It pays for We Are Hope, which all our schools benefit from. This year, it's going to pay for Summer Academy because we lost, our ESSER funding is gone. So just a lot going on, and trying to stay on top of it and make good decisions about the things that are important here and how to move forward. I heard a hand.
It was
Elizabeth.
mine. I just want to reassure you that we actually do have a plan in case Medicaid funding gets cut.
Oh, that's very good to hear, Elizabeth. Thank you for saying that, because that has been on our mind. So thank you. Okay, last slide, and then I'm going to let Tracy take over. She's got a little bit of a longer report tonight, so I'm trying to go a little bit quickly. Just things coming up across the SU. We have student-led conferences. April 10th and 11th, students are preparing and teachers are preparing, and we're excited about those so that students can show the gains that they've made over the course of the year. Mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, we have 2 plays coming up. Peter Pan at Wethersfield, April 4th and 5th, and Your Good Man, Charlie Brown at Heartland, March 28th and 29th. We have most of our graduation dates set. I won't read them all, but they're up there for you. And we're still working on Albert Bridge to be announced, but I'll make sure to get you that information as soon as we have it. And then I'm going to, Tracy, you're going to share your screen?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Let me unshare.
Okay. All right. All right. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here with you. Heather and John, nice to meet you both. I'm going to just start by saying this was really difficult trying to put together a report for DEI right now in the context of our social political climate. So some of what I'll mention, Christine and I were talking, maybe a little bit repeat, some reinforcing of some of the things that you just heard, and then a ridiculous number of slides that are mainly here for the record. This felt like I didn't want to miss anything tonight, so I'm gonna go through this quickly, and if anybody has anything that you want to stop or add, please jump in anytime. So also starting with our themes, our goals, our values here at WSESU, and a ton of gratitude and appreciation for you all as a board. I mean, I don't think I can say enough about how amazing this board is and to work with, and I know that I would not have a job if it weren't for this board, so I appreciate the ways that you all continue to both be committed to the work of diversity, equity, inclusion, and invested in it. So, and it's because we all know that this is about belonging and connection, but like the kind of belonging that we're not asking people to hide parts of who they are, right? Is that so that everybody can show up with all of the most amazing things that they have to contribute without changing the system, right? And that's what makes us stronger, better, all the things. I don't know if y'all have seen this comic before, but I love this because it's basically depicting there are a bunch of people trying to get into this building and there's snow, and somebody says all these other kids are waiting to use the stairs, so when I can get through shoveling the stairs off, then I'll clear the ramp off. They say, but if you shovel the ramp, then we can all get in. Right? So, I mean, that's what this, at the heart of like DEI work for me is definitely, it's about all of us. It's about improving circumstances for some so that we all benefit. I know, like, when I started this work, it was back in 2012. I never imagined that people would be attacking DEI because we used to talk about it as a way of helping to support people becoming better humans. And I think that's what we're here to do. So Just want to stay grounded in that. And then it's better for everybody. This is not a scarcity game. This is not a zero-sum game. This is like, if we can close the gaps for some, then we're actually going to make it better for everyone. So just to lightly touch on the current social political climate, all of these things are happening every day, every hour. We've got political corporate backlash. We've got all these criticisms about things that are happening, divisiveness, more polarization in our communities, lots of anti-DEI attacks and examples, as absurd as, who's flying helicopters and anyway, lots of chilling effects, reinforcing stereotypes. All of these things are happening. Some of the activities are more directly impacting education. So there's a great summary resource. This is actually linked in that top right corner from a group called Education Council that is keeping tabs on all of the things that are happening in education, what the status of some of those orders and actions are, and it's a great way just to stay informed about what's happening. So what you're seeing on this page is the top left is the most recent, or one, I may have missed something today or in the last couple hours, but that's the one about about dismantling the Department of Education, which I think is unlikely, even though, like Christine said, it seems to be happening, right? There's a lot that it's just like, how is this even happening? Because we know Congress would have to approve that. So anyway, tracking that, there was an executive order that came out March 1st, designating English as the official language of the United States. The thing that's important to note about this is this could threaten funding for our English language learning programs. So that's one way this could impact it. And it's 11% of all U.S. students are English learners, and we know that that's increasing, right? With I imagine with younger students too. So one of the many impacts, the Dear Colleague letter that Christine mentioned, I'll talk about that in a little bit too, and how there's a lot of confusion right now. There's a lot of confusion and people don't know what to believe or what to think, but I'll get into that in a little bit. Keeping men out of women's sports. There are also some links in here that I put in, knowing that Vermont supports a lot of these, Vermont AOE supports best practices for schools regarding transgender and gender nonconforming students. There's a great FAQ from Outright Vermont that talks, it's linked in the slide and directly addresses this executive order and has a lot of amazing information in it. So again, just a couple other things. Education Council is a great resource for staying up to date on what's happening with the executive orders. Couple of things that I just wanted to pull out. Again, some of these may echo what Christine shared. From our state of Vermont AOE, executive orders do not have the authority to override, right, any of the laws that already exist, which is really important to note because I think a lot of people are seeing executive orders and they're assuming this is somehow law. These are not law. And a lot of these things are being challenged. So executive orders on their own do not have the authority to override any of these rules, especially state statutes. The recommendation is that we proceed with planned professional development and instructional activities, and that's what we are planning to do. This is another document that was created by a multi-state guidance from Vermont's Attorney General, along with 13 other states in the District of Columbia. Attorney Generals wrote this document basically saying that, they feel like DEI programs have been mischaracterized, practices and programming that lawfully promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility confer important educational and social benefits for students. And also in response, again, to this Dear Colleague letter and this FAQ document that the U.S. Department of Ed put out, these attorney generals say that neither of those have the force of law. So they cannot disturb, right, some of what's already happening in our classrooms, some instructions and all of that. So again, just kind of challenging the weight and the perception that these letters and executive orders don't really have. Also in that multi-state guidance doc is the underscoring, right, that in order to prepare all students for college and careers, right, including, this is explicit here, including students from historically underrepresented backgrounds who are disproportionately students of color, right? So where we may be hearing like not to talk about race, not to be explicit about it, here's a statement that says like, sometimes we need to be, right? We need to factor this in. So this may mean taking targeted action so that students from underserved communities have access. This is all within, all of what we're doing is within the realm of legal things so far. So this is just to underscore that what we're doing is okay and necessary, right? Let's see, a couple more examples to highlight. This is one that the AOE has on their federal updates, right? A lot of folks are saying like title funding is going to get pulled, right? And as Christine was describing, like we don't know how that's going to be impacted, but nothing is happening yet. So this funding for these programs, right, is secure for the remainder of this school year and will continue at essentially the same levels for next school year, is what the AOE is talking about with these funds. This is also important to note, so this is in Outright Vermont's FAQs, and it's also in our education quality standards that reiterates, right, no student in the public school or independent school shall be excluded from participation in. So this directly addresses the attack on trans girls, trans women participating in sports specifically. We also know that federal law, like the federal government does not control our state curriculum. There are laws in place that actually spell this out. So there are two examples here. One's from the Every Student Succeeds Act, and one is from the General Education Provisions Act, which both say that the federal government basically like has no control over state, local agencies and the content and academic standards and assessments, curriculum, all of that. So that's also worth remembering.
Well, the most important thing is the 10th Amendment.
Can you say more about that?
Well, the 10th Amendment states directly that any power not given to the federal government in the Constitution is given to the states, which is why there's actually no federal education laws.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's the 14th Amendment, Bill.
It starts with the 10th Amendment, and that applies to it applied to local governments in the 14th Amendment.
So that's good.
Yes, it's the last Bill of Rights, the 10th Amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, we know that not everything that's happening right now is constitutional, right? I mean,
Right.
there's a lot happening. So some of what I wanted to capture here is just for the record and just to remind us all, like, of some of the things. This is just a way of spelling out some of the things that DEI is and some of the things that DEI is not. I don't know that I'll go through all of these, but the arguments on the left-hand side, right, are that like DEI is just about race, or it's about censoring material, supporting patriotic education, indoctrinating children. And the one thing I just want to say about indoctrinating children and youth into things like gender ideologies, we already do that. We have two boxes that we put everybody in on their board, and we say, if you are, girls, like we're already indoctrinating students, youth into ideologies. And so just to say that out loud. DEI is not about shaming, blaming, it's not about lowering standards. So again, just spelling a couple things out. This is about bringing out the best in everyone. This is about building community together. This is an example I used when we were doing an all-staff training, right? It's like if you had an orchestra symphony, right, where every instrument was the same. I know they're slightly different in this image, but just imagine that these are all exactly the same, like cellos, right? I mean, that's not a symphony or orchestra, right? You need the diversity. You need people with different skills. You need all of this so that we can make beautiful music together, right? It makes us all better. And the reality is, too, is that DEI kinds of things really come into play in so many different aspects of what we do institutionally. So this was just an attempt to capture some of, when I thought about reporting out like where we're at with DEI, I mean, really it fits into everything that we do. And it's not really, it's about how we do what we do. And I'll mention like we're starting to look at using an equity filter or lens, which will allow us to continue that kind of integration across so many different programs, policies, practices, all of it. All right, I'm going to keep rolling along. So again, please jump in, any questions and comments along the way. I'm going to shift a little bit to just pulling up some highlights that connect with the instructional leadership plan. This is how I organized the report last time to you all and highlighted some aspects in this plan. So one of our goals is that all staff, students, teachers, administrators, and board will participate in ongoing capacity building, training, and support. So again, this is just a snapshot of some things we're doing. I don't think I included all of them, but this is the schedule that we've been working on. We've had equity coaches who are also leading staff meetings. I've been meeting with administrators one-on-one and then as a group once a month. So yeah, there's a lot of meetings and capacity building happening, including we had the in-service dedicated to DEI on January 6th. We also had a follow-up restorative practice DEI session at the early release last Friday, and Wethersfield had their support staff participate in it, which I thought was a great idea. And then John and Mary will be back to do another support for restorative practices May 23rd. I mentioned using an equity lens or filter, which at the last administrative team meeting, we started talking about how we can do this, right? And it's basically taking from the AOE has a tool. And so it's using questions that ultimately end up surfacing more questions. So these are the kinds of questions too, as a board, it would be great for y'all to think about, right? As you're developing policies or coming up with different practices. These are the kinds of questions you can also be integrating. If we're integrating this, like there's an article that somebody wrote about equity LASIK, right? Instead of thinking of it as a lens or filter, what if it was just LASIK and it was just, this is how we see the world. I mean, I think about this all the time personally, right? If I'm buying something from a store, I think about who owns the store. How am I supporting a Black-owned business, in this purchase? Like, what are all the ways we can always be applying a filter or lens? So this is something that we are talking about. How can we get more practice with this next year and integrating it? We'll get practice this year. This year is not over, but like really integrate it next year because it's going to help us identify the gaps. And that's what equity is all about. Like, where are the gaps and how can we fill them so that everybody has what they need to succeed? We also have a book club this year. So this was the second book. We are in the process of reading My Grandmother's Hands. And what's kind of cool is, although this is SU-wide, Albert Bridge has their own, like they've been meeting with staff talking about it. I think there's an optional meeting at Heartland. So even though it's an SU-wide initiative, it seems like it's finding pockets like within schools. So even more discussion happening here. If y'all haven't read this book, I definitely recommend it. Okay, so the second goal in culture and student wellness is about creating and sustaining safer, braver spaces across our SU. And some of the ways that we're doing that, hopefully it seems a little familiar, is talking about and trying to integrate and practice some group agreements or norms. This comes up a lot with administrators, also in our buildings. If we're going to be able to have difficult conversations, if we're going to give each other feedback, if we're going to talk about things like race and racism and transphobia and all these things, it's really important to have a shared set of values in how we're engaging in these conversations. It makes it a lot easier to have hard conversations. Again, these come mostly from courageous conversations. As Christine mentioned, we had Ryan's story presentation, which was, it was really powerful. We heard from John Halligan, who really appreciated the attention that students were giving him. And he navigated through a power out in Heartland when he was doing the assembly there. He was also recommended to us by Amanda Garces, who is with the Vermont Human Rights Commission. And so they've been doing a lot. I mean, they've been doing a ton of work. She led the social and ethnic studies, like Act 1 work, the EQS work. She works for the Vermont Human Rights Commission. Anyway, she recommended having Ryan's story presentation and then pairing that with some train-the-trainer, upstander, bystander intervention trainings that are offered through them, and also in partnership with the Vermont Student Anti-Racist Network, the Education Justice Coalition, Outright Vermont. And so there's an opportunity on April 11th, for students to participate in this train-the-trainer program, and they had to apply and be accepted in order to be part of it. And we have 2 Windsor Middle School students who will be participating in this training on April 11th. And our hope is that we can do maybe even have them come and do like a cohort training for students at our SU. Equity tickets, I think we are up to now it's about 150. So about 150 equity tickets have been submitted this school year. 54 of those have come from students. And I just wanted to break it down into the categories that we're seeing these tickets come in. Yes, Elizabeth.
Tracy, is the QR code the only way that they can access the equity ticket?
They can access it. It's in the student portal and it's in a staff portal also, the Clever portal. So they can access it through the Clever portals. We've talked about having paper tickets available, but then no one seems to think that's a great idea.
My concern about the QR code is that they're not supposed to be using their phones in school.
Exactly. Yes, we thought about that, which is why we put it in the Clever portal. So yes, if y'all have other thoughts and ideas about.
Well, they all have Chromebooks that
they could use their Chromebook
to click on the.
Yeah, they could get it through the portal there.
For
right?
the portal as well. So yeah.
So you can see the top categories for tickets that are coming in are around racism, LGBTQ+, hate, harm, generally, and disability. So those seem to be the top themes of tickets. One of the ways that we're using tickets is equity coaches are leading all staff meetings, and they look a little bit different depending on the school. But one of the ways that they've been using the equity tickets is I went through anonymized some of the tickets, pulled out those sayings, and then they had staff practice how to interrupt, right? So actually try and what would you say if and when you heard, a student say this, how would you respond? That was one of the things I heard from folks last year. It's like we need more practice and how to call in, call out. And so we're like, well, why not use equity tickets? Because these are happening in our schools and have people practice so that it can just become more familiar and a practice out of habit. Which I feel like there's a lot that we're doing here, which could ultimately be some of the procedures for our active hate policy, right? It's like these can all work together. You all hopefully saw that we also had a parent-teacher survey, staff survey, family survey that went out on gender inclusivity. This is the gender inclusion consultant who we're working with, who had worked with Hartford. Checking in on where people are at with our transgender policy. And so I pulled some language or just a couple quotes, statistics from the YRBS data. That's the youth risk behavior survey that goes out every 2 years. So what you're seeing on there, and part of the reason why we do this, right, is that compared to heterosexual cisgender students, LGBTQ+ high school students are 3 times more likely report self-harm, make a plan to kill themselves, and attempt to kill themselves during the past year. This is disproportionate, right? This is a very disproportionate. It's also important, I think, to say out loud that we are not doing the work that we do and the things that I'm describing out of nowhere, right? We are doing these things in response to the things that we are hearing from students and staff or noticing, right? It's all in response to patterns and all the things that we're seeing. We're not manufacturing these things in any ways, and so YRBS data, I think, calls some attention to that. More specifically, I'm sorry, this has a lot of information on it. This was just a snapshot of some info that I pulled out of Windsor specific data. So you can see, like, when we're looking at the high school, and these are all self-reported, right? But you can see anywhere with an asterisk is statistically significant, right? So you're seeing that first line, self-reports of being bullied in the last 30 days. Females, LGBTQ+, and students on IEPs all reported a statistically significant higher level of feeling like they were bullied in the last 30 days than their counterparts. You can see, again, anywhere where an asterisk is, those are all the places where there's some statistical significance in the experience of either female, LGBTQ+, BIPOC, or students with IEPs are having. I think the plan I'll share a little bit more out from YRBS too at the Mount Escutney board meeting. But it's available online, it's linked on this page. You can see middle school, similar patterns also. And I just thought, one of the reasons it's really important that we have a transgender policy in place is that we know that although we would love to imagine that all families are supportive of their children and whoever they are, we know that that's not the case. And I think one of the statistics that, ate dinner at home with at least one parent or other adult family member 4 or more days during the previous work. So you can see that number is 76 for LGBTQ+ students and 91 for hetero or cisgendered students, right? There's a statistically significant difference in those experiences. And if that's one indication of the kind of supportive home environment and the differences that LGBTQ students might be experiencing, I think that's important to know. All right, building and sustaining a dedicated team and community of support. This includes support for our Gender Sexualities Alliance groups. And I love, this was a tabling event that they did during lunchtime. It went really well. The students had baked goods that they were selling for donations, and really they were available to answer any questions, to talk with other students who might be curious or just want to come over and support, be allies. And I love how this even says that the Windsor High School GSA aims to create a self-welcoming space for students of all identities, right? This is about, again, working together, rising the tide to float all boats, and making sure that we have safe spaces for students who identify as LGBTQ for the data just shared, right? It's important that they have spaces to connect and be able to be supported. Equity coaches, I had a long meeting with them, and in reflection of this past year, some of the things they share that they think have worked well is they appreciate the conversations that are happening more in their buildings, more with their administrators. Again, just more openness and talking about some things that are connected or related to DEI. Having student groups, having colleagues more involved, having a position in our SU that is dedicated to this work were just some of the things that they mentioned that have been going well. Some of the things that they feel like need improvement, they feel like there's some inconsistency in how we do what we do across schools and across the SU. So all of these are opportunities, which I'll share too in a little bit. Navigating the comfort of their colleagues, right? Again, why we have these group agreements. We have to keep building the norms to be able to have some discomfort, and it doesn't mean that we're unsafe. Having time for students to do this, the way that discipline works, follow-up repeat offender, some of the things around our behavior matrix. Again, these are all things that we're planning to update anyway, so it's good to have this input. And their vision for 3+ years from now, I love how it's really pointing to like students leading, people feeling safe, people feeling seen, supported, more unity, right? This isn't about division and more divisiveness. This is about bringing people together. Working on hiring practices, which we've shared some, also developing, we've got like a slide deck that we could do a comprehensive training for any hiring managers, and also a reminder that we do have in our policies our commitment to diversifying our workforce. And then these are some additional goals around student learning. So some ways this is showing up is that a number of us on the admin team have been going to these EQS sessions from the Vermont Principal Association and having time to just think about what does this mean for us to really integrate these. And that's also where we met some of our speakers who we've had, like Susanna Davis, who was at our January 6th in service, Rajni Edens, who's a poet, spoken word artist, who we had speak and also do the residency. These are just, again, remembering why these things exist, right? Like I said, we're not making this up. We're responding to things that already exist. So there was a report that came out in 1999 talking about racial harassment in Vermont public schools, saying that it was pervasive in our public schools and not a priority, right? Which led to Act 54, Racial Disparities in State Systems, 2017, how education is one of the 5 state systems in which racial disparities persist and need to be addressed. Why we do what we do. This is why the EQS are all about anti-racism, anti-discrimination, culturally relevant practices, all that good stuff. On the left, this was one of the most beautiful examples about how we can imagine integrating things like Leader in Me, right? One of the Leader in Me habits, and this is shout out to Mary Richter, who's one of our equity coaches and school counselors in Windsor Middle. She said she used ChatGPT, and she ChatGPT Leader in Me habits and Black History Month. And then, so the middle school did this whole project around the 8th habit, which is find your voice, and students had an opportunity to pick a Black figure. I think there was a certain time range where they lived, to do some research. They shared posters. So it was a great combination, integration of how we can do this work in a pretty seamless way. And so, again, just highlighting acknowledgements during the month and how can we weave those in even more so that the shortest month of the year is not the only time that we're talking about Black history and that we see that as our history.
Now I'm going to have to.
And just, yes, this was just Rajni Edens' donated materials from Little Pataka. And I think I've got a couple more, but I'll just leave you with some opportunities.
Pretty good. Pretty close.
Yes.
So we have a lot of opportunities to continue to just strengthen and sustain what we're doing and how we're doing that. So I will leave it there.
Thank you.
Yes.
We do have some things. Resignation.
Yeah, we do. Okay. Great report, Tracy.
Yes,
That was
thank you.
super awesome.
Thank you. Really comprehensive.
We have a resignation of an SU employee, Jeannie Wade, for the end of this year. So we want to just let you know because we want to post that position before the end of the year.
And we do not need to vote on that.
Right, just letting you know. So we're going to post that one. We have a termination, and I'm going to recommend the termination of, it is a paraprofessional. And
you do have to say her name.
I can say her name is.
And I concur, and so does the union. She just hasn't been coming to work at all. So.
Did you say you want me to say her name?
Well, I think if we're going to vote on it.
I can say her name.
We have to.
Jessica Smithers.
Okay, I will take a motion to terminate Jessica Smithers.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? So this ties into
E.
Another
Yeah,
thing
on the
here.
agenda.
Number letter E. So.
Yep.
And I've lost. Okay. I will take not a voice vote, but we'll go around. Davis.
Aye.
Elizabeth.
Aye.
Nancy.
Aye.
Beth.
Aye.
John.
I'm going to abstain. I don't know enough about the circumstances. I'm reluctant to terminate somebody without knowing more information.
Megan.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Anne Marie.
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
Heather.
Aye.
And I am an aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Retirement.
Yes, we have a retirement of Doreen Coro, and I just want to read it because I told her I would. She's writing to announce her formal retirement from Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union as a paraeducator effective June 30, 2025. I would like to thank you and the entire SU for the opportunities given to me over the 26 years in the district. I've enjoyed working with so many amazing people, but most of all, the students that have brought so much joy into my heart. I am finally ready to move on to the next phase of my life. I will miss you all greatly. So I just need to read that to you. So.
And I congratulate her.
Yeah, 26 years, a long time.
I am jealous.
A
lot of those years was with me.
Yeah.
Substitute pay.
I have some numbers. So
Okay.
we're talking about potentially raising the substitute pay rate. I think it's on the agenda at every local meeting, but and we would like to be consistent about it for payroll. So the numbers that I found currently around the area, WNESU, they pay 120. So our current rate is 125. Wyndham Central is 120. Wyndham Southeast is $21 per hour. So they do an hourly rate. Two Rivers, 125. Brattleboro, 125. Lebanon, 175. Woodstock, 175. Heather confirmed that for me. And Hartford's at 130 at the moment. So that's all I've gathered. But
Yeah.
so I think to attract substitutes, we should consider raising the pay.
And I think that with those numbers that you put out, it's clear that the places that we would be competing with in the Upper Valley, a few of them, I mean, at least one has a substantially higher rate.
Yeah.
And I mean, Hartford, I think, is the nearest comparison, and they're also higher, if not, like 11 of them have higher.
And I know Hartford's talking about raising it. They're really struggling with it.
Yeah.
As well.
It does have a significant impact because when we don't have subs, we're pulling paraprofessionals, and that often means that we're struggling to figure out how we're going to cover the paraprofessionals' roles and responsibilities on days when they're pulled to sub.
It's the hidden cost thing that comes up so much, when we're not able to compensate folks enough, we actually end up not saving money but losing it elsewhere.
Right.
So.
Correct.
So they're on the. I believe we should put this on the agenda to vote on it next meeting.
Because it's on the. I think some of the local districts would like to know a ballpark number.
Yeah.
So if we could set that at the SU, like a ballpark, I can take it back.
John.
If we're going to discuss it at the next meeting, could we have some numbers on the line? Is substitution teachers handled as a line item? And if it is, traditionally, as we come under, over, or spot on?
It is a line item in local budgets and the SU budget for SU employees.
That we go back a couple years
yeah.
to see how that's sugared off.
Sure.
John, I think everyone's aware of this, but I think it's worth saying when we're talking about SU employees, we're talking about special ed teachers and in special ed parents who are required to be there. We have to get substitutes for them. The kind of figure that I think that has been kind of bandied around a little bit in the progression of things would be, at least in my feeling, would be for next year, 150. That would be a reasonable raise, and would get us within the ballpark of, at least the ballpark of those around us. So,
shall I take that number with me?
Does anyone else have any input on that? Nikki?
That was where my gut took me to, so I'm in agreement.
Okay.
Okay, awesome.
Anne Marie?
I think 150 sounds reasonable given the other numbers that we were just told. Yeah, I think we need to be competitive to attract the people, so I think 150 is probably a good number where we'd like to be.
Davis?
Yeah, I completely agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
Board chair authority to terminate support staff. This is an issue that has come up and was brought to my attention by Christine and Tina. The fact that when termination is required because a staff member, usually a support staff member, is not coming to work and hasn't directly resigned, and a complete lack of communication, I think it would be appropriate for the different boards to give the board chair the ability to act in accordance with the board if it's going to be a long time before the next board meeting. One of the things that convinced me that this probably should happen was the fact that until an employee is officially terminated, it can't be, the position can't be advertised. And so if this happens 3 weeks before the board meeting, that really is an opportunity that should be moved forward. The thing that happens is sort of to balance it out is that there's an issue. Tina and Christine get together. They communicate it with the union. The union, of course, for the most part, is in agreement because this person is just not coming to work, and they're not communicating why they're not coming to work, and so everyone's in agreement. I think it would be then be, if at some point we vote on it, even possibly tonight, the board chairs would act for the board to satisfy the contract requirement. This isn't in policy. It's in the contract that the decision would be made by the board, and that's appropriate because, of course, the board is the actual employer. But I think if there's a time worry about getting the position advertised, moving on from an employee that's not working on, that's working out. I think if it's a Mount Scottney School District employee, then Christine would contact Davis. If it's a SU employee, they should contact me, and the same thing with Wethersfield and Heartland. And then that board chair is acting as the board.
There's also,
yes.
Well, I was going to say, there's also, times where we have to, while we're waiting for the board meeting, we have to put someone on paid administrative leave. So it also can cost money,
right,
while we're waiting. That's all.
Yes.
So my only question, I think that rationale for having chairs have that authority makes a lot of sense. Just, because again, when you have somebody who is not showing up or not able to show up, you're undercutting the ability for the rest of the people in that system to functionally do their job, especially when it comes to support staff. The question that I would ask is, a lot of the time, in my experience, terminations are pretty clear cut, you know, like administration, union, everybody's talked about it. I would just say that in those rare cases where there is maybe a need for discussion, or it does feel more like a margin call, I'm assuming the chair would have the ability to say, this one feels off, or I want to be able to talk to board on this, we can kick it out.
That's the exact reason why I don't want to in any way create a policy in which administration can just go ahead and terminate.
Absolutely.
I'd like that board chair in terms of timing to act as the gatekeeper. And if there is any question in mind, then that board chair then has the power to call an emergency meeting.
Absolutely.
And so that's why. John?
That's what I was just going to mention, that the chair can call an emergency meeting with 24 hours notice. So I'm not sure it's appropriate to give the chair the authority to terminate somebody without the other members' input.
That is true. That is a point, which is why this needs to be discussed and reviewed. But a lot of times, John, the termination is very clear cut, and so this is the second termination in the last 2 months in which there was no question that because the employee was just not coming to work at all. Yes.
I think too that if we end up doing this in the interest of the board still being aware of what those decisions being made, I think that we should make it practice, whether that's through a procedure or just some kind of memo, how we've done it with things that don't necessarily need to be policy, that we would inform the board at the subsequent meeting of the entire situation, like why that decision was made, what the kind of in and outs of it were, so that we can, just so that everybody's on the same page, even if we're not scrambling everybody in, you know, emergency meetings to do this.
And to take it to the next level, I have no issue of actually looking at creating this as a policy.
Sure, yeah.
Either, and that might just solidify, because if there's a policy, then there can be a procedure.
Sure.
And so, but this is something that I wanted to bring up in this meeting so that we can get it on the radar and get it solved sooner than later. So. Okay.
So in the interim.
Do we have any?
I think Tina was hoping that in the situation of, we call it no call, no show, right?
Yeah.
They're not calling in, they're not showing up, we're reaching out, nothing coming back to us, that the board chair could make that determination and obviously share the information at the next meeting, or share the determination at the next meeting.
Well, I'm happy to take a motion to give the board chair that power, but we can only do that for the SU.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's mostly, most of our paraprofessionals are SU employees, so.
So I will take a motion, and if people aren't comfortable with it, they can say no. I will take a motion to give the board chair the to make a motion to give the board chair for the remainder of the FY 25 school year the ability to approve the termination if there is a time factor involved, and to communicate that to the rest of the SU board.
So moved.
Okay. Did anybody write that down?
Well, I was trying, yep.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Nikki, second.
Okay. I'll go around. Davis, how do you vote?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Nancy?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
John?
No.
Megan?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye.
Nikki?
Aye.
And is Heather with us?
I'm still here.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, and I am an aye. Okay, thank you, everybody. And so for the remainder of FU 25,
Yep, got it.
and they're required to contact the rest of the board.
Yep.
And it's only in times where the time is a factor.
Yep.
Okay, those are the 4 points. Okay, and executive text session.
Yes.
And
Okay,
I'm
so
not fully, is it?
yeah, we're going in under, VSA 313
15.
1A
1A.
contracts. Yep.
Okay. Yes, we are going into an executive session. I will take a motion to go into executive session to discuss contracts.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Hi.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Abstentions. I would like again to thank our new members, and I want to say thank you. And I will take a motion to end this SU school board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you. Have a great night.